Hi, I'm Virgil Walker with We the People, American Black and White, and I wanted to continue on in the series about healthcare. And just recently, and unfortunately, Senator Ben Nelson, Democrat of Nebraska, has become the 60th vote that actually closed, or he was the 60th vote for cloture, which is actually a parliamentary procedure that allows the end of debate regarding health care in the Senate. So debate is now ended, and they'll begin trying to run around to see who and how many votes they can muster in order to get health care passed through the Senate, the health care bill passed through the Senate, probably sometime around Christmas Eve. With that said, there are a lot of things that are going on with regard to the bill that most people are not even aware of. What I want to do quickly, and I won't be able to do all in one segment, so I'll break these segments up and we'll look at a number of things. First, we'll take a look at in this bill that's coming out of the Senate, who's covered. We'll look at the actual cost. We'll look at how it's paid for. And if I have time, I'll walk through some of the requirements on you as an individual as this thing becomes law, what you're going to be responsible for now that that it looks like, for all intrinsic purposes, not only will it pass the Senate, but some kind of bill will pass both House and Senate at some point. I'll also walk through the process. With that said, let's start with who's covered. Based on this bill passing the Senate version, 94% of Americans are going to be covered, as opposed to about 83% that are covered now. And about 24 million people are still, with all the money that they're going to be spending, are still going to be left uninsured or uncovered. When you begin to look at the cost, they do some pretty interesting mathematics with regard to that, in that they tell you that the 10-year cost is actually $871 billion. What's not explained is that actually they only estimated the cost for 7 years. And what I mean by that is we as American citizens are going to be paying taxes for the first 3 years. And then thereafter, the following 7 years, the costs are actually coming out. So they're not actually doing the correct actuarial analysis of this bill by looking at 10 years of the plan being put in place and running, and expenditures being spent, and coming back with a figure that's more in line with the 10 years of those spending. So that's kind of interesting mathematics. How it's paid for: there are fees and taxes that are coming out of everything known to man. There's going to be a fee on insurance companies. There'll be a fee on drug makers. There'll be a fee on medical device manufacturers. Now, I want you to think about something. All those fees and taxes that are going to be levied on insurance companies, drug makers, and medical device manufacturers. Do you really believe that at the end of the day, those companies, those entities are not going to pass those additional taxes and fees onto you, thereby increasing the cost of your insurance, thereby increasing the cost of your drugs, thereby increasing the cost of your medical device? Interesting. As you continue to look at what they're doing, you've got there's going to be a Medicare payroll tax increase. So those of you who are making incomes of $200,000 or above are going to see a 2% increase in your Medicare payroll tax. Now, for most of us think, oh, that's no big deal, and that's on the rich and on people who make that kind of money. The reality is, once this thing is enacted, there's nothing that allows the government to keep its hands off of an ever-growing and increasing number or salary that they feel now is necessary to tax, because there's not enough funding to keep the program in place. So what you'll begin to see over time is salaries that are at the $100,000, salaries that are at the $80,000, salaries that are at the $50,000. Once the government enacts this, there's nothing that stops them from moving or lowering those kinds of salary increases or salary parameters. We also look at the fact that there's going to be a 10% sales tax increase on those of you who are tanning. Now, for the most part, that's kind of laughable. We think about, well, tanning, that's not a big deal. What it does is it puts the government in the position of, one, regulating behavior, and two, coming up with every and any circumstance by which they can find a way to tax something. What they'll do is they'll say there's a health risk ratio that determines that drinking soda or eating candy or driving your car or whatever it is they want to regulate in an effort to gain A, more power, and B, more money into the government coffers. So those are things you've got to think about and consider when you see something as simple as a 10% sales tax on tanning. Now, I have an illustrious tan and won't be needing those services, so I could easily say, oh, I don't care about that. Well, the reality is I should care, because at the end of the day, whatever they do to one, they'll be able to do to all. So it's something definitely for you to think about. There are going to be $500 billion in cuts to Medicare and Medicaid in an effort to pay for this. There's going to be a 40% excise tax on insurance companies that are going to be keyed to premiums that are paid. There's going to be a fee for employees whose workers receive government subsidies. I mean, it goes on and on and on. I'm going to stop there because it can really get overwhelming, and my goal in this process is to actually make things more clear as opposed to less clear. We'll stop there. We'll pick up on another segment. But I want you to begin thinking about these things, and if you're concerned about it at all, I'd pick up the phone. It's not too late to call your senator, to call your congressman or woman, and tell them to stop this legislation. I'd encourage you to do so. There's a million reasons to do so. I'll walk through additional segments of this so that you can get a clear picture of what's actually happening to us that the government would have you not pay attention to as you enjoy your Christmas holiday. With that said, I'm Virgil Walker with We the People, America in Black and White. It's been great talking with you. Look forward to the next segment.